Uh, Welcome to the webinar, children. Now, in our webinar journey, you can see first of all, we'll take a look at the types of questions and their weightage thereon, then last minute preparation hacks, important topics, hacks to attempt question paper, and finally, once then we can have a question answer session. Of course, you can ask questions in between also, and uh, let's take up. One more thing, uh, I think the board exams are halfway through. You already have taken up the exams of English, physics, and chemistry. So mathematics, I think, is the only last hurdle, main hurdle that is. After all, after that, there will be a physical education or computer exam, as per whatever elective you have taken. But the main exam is that of mathematics, and I think the situation would be pretty much stress-free for all of us. Having gone through physics, chemistry, and English, they are all over. So we have only to focus on maths, which is very good. Since you have got 7 days, 6 days from tomorrow onwards. So I think we can easily divide our time and focus fully on the preparation, right? So let's see, first of all, the unit-wise weightage that will be asked in the exams. Now, well, you can see from this list here that we are having calculus, which is a very big weightage of something like 44 marks. 44% of paper is going to be from calculus. So, very big part indeed. And then after that, you can see vectors and 3D geometry. And after that, algebra. Algebra here actually means determinants and matrices. And then relation and functions and probability with 10 marks each. And finally, linear programming with 6 marks question. So that totals up to a full 100 marks. And as we proceed, you will see how we can score maximum. Let's go on to the next slide. Now this is the breakup of questions, the type of questions that will be asked. So we are having very short answer questions, long answer questions. You can see there will be 10 short answer questions, 10 very short answer questions. In fact, 12 short answer questions, 7 long answer questions. And just take a look at the next chart, that is difficulty level and percentage of marks. Now, easy 15 marks, or average 70 marks. So you see, it's comparatively very easy to score 85 marks, even for an average student. Difficult part is, of course, 15 marks, but then in these 6 7 days, if you can touch upon all the aspects, even this is not a problem as such. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide, which says maximize, how to like maximize your last minute preparations. Okay, now see, the crux of the board exam is that you ultimately get questions which are from NCRT. When you are reading this particular page, the very first sentence says follow NCRT religiously and solve all its problems. Yeah, that's true. I would say rather scan each and every page of NCRT. Every question would be from NCRT or would be a similar reflection of NCRT. Now, as I've written there, that do even the solved examples of NCRT, so don't miss out anything. Then, of course, previous year board papers are important. Now, when you're studying a particular chapter, I would suggest that once you go through that chapter, you have solved the NCRT problems, then take a look at the questions that have been asked in the previous year board exams for that chapter. And then this says stop studying an hour before the exam. Now, on the D day, like you need some time for yourself, an hour or two before you must shut down all your books and just do some meditation, or just don't think about the exam as such. And when you are finally in the examination hall writing the writing on the answer sheets, now there you must avoid overwriting. And I would suggest that you always begin a new question with on a fresh page, and when you finally answer, put a box, so something, it's always clearly visible. Good handwriting is always a plus point, but even children who don't have good handwriting, if you are able to express your answers clearly, even that is not a problem, right? So let's go to the next one. Now, how to attempt the question paper. Now see, when you're being given time initially 15 minutes to read the question paper, just plan out what are you going to do there. Like some of you may be having some favorite topics. So of course, where you say where you must be feeling that oh come on, I can do anything. Nothing is impossible for me in this chapter. So you can always go for such questions first or whatever. Some people go very systematically. They take up section A, section B, section C, and so on. That's also good enough. Now make your own strategy, right? Every student has a different mindset, has uh, takes up a different strategy. Okay, now another very important thing that's written next is attempt all the sections and subparts of a question together. See, when a examiner is checking your answer sheets, so it's always convenient for him. Like section B you have done at one place, entire section C you have done at one place. Within that section you can change the order of the questions, but like doing section wise always helps, right? And sub parts of a question must be done at one place, not that question number 12 part 1 is done here and then after 5 pages in the end you are doing the part 2 part. No, that there may be some examiner may come into some, may not feel good and somewhere may deduct marks, like then now sketch neat diagrams and graphs. Now especially this is for the chapter of linear programming where the problem is invariably on graphs only. So here make sure you have a nicely sharpened pencil and eraser and so on, and write down the scale of the, whatever the uh, scale of the x-axis and y-axis is going to be. And then it says don't get stuck on any particular question. You feel a particular question is taking too long, okay, just leave it. You say you can always come back to it when you have done more. And what happens is that like if you some so questions starts happening and you are able to answer, so the confidence level always increases, so you can go back and again attempt the question. Now, next one is quite important. Write down all the known steps, even if you don't know the complete solution. Now, suppose you're not able to arrive at the answer, you've been asked to prove something you're not able to prove. But of course, if you are knowing that what formula is required, just write that formula or write a particular theory part associated with it. So that way, you will get some credit. Now, and especially like while using a particular formula, mention it separately in brackets. Now, this is very important when you're doing, questions on integration and so on. And and 1 upon under root x square plus a square, you directly use it. So it's better if you write in brackets that integral 1 upon, like the formula that is normally given in the textbooks. 1 upon under root x square plus a square is equal to whatever. And finally, when you must have some time for revision, right? Revision is quite important, so make sure that you are completing your paper like at least 10 minutes in advance. And then double check your calculations, right? Calculations, it's again checking calculations very important when you have a topic like matrices and determinants. Now these topics, any small error will lead you to the wrong answer, right? So let's move to the next one. Okay, now here Hardik says hacks of time management. Now, children, when you are preparing these days, now time management, of course, is a very important issue. Now, suppose you start to study, let's say, so I would suggest that you take study, say, for 1.5 hour or 2 hour in a one flow in one go, and then take up a break, right? Take a break for say 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then again sit down to study. Because studying for long hours, it's not possible. I mean, your brain will get tired and somehow the questions won't start happening. So always you need to refresh. So 1.5 hour to 2 hours study and then move forward and so on. That way you can do. And one more thing you can do, like you can divide this time that we are having. Let's say we are having 6 days, starting tomorrow we are having 6 days for this. So I would suggest give like for example a topic like calculus which has maximum weightage, give something like 2 days to it. Then vectors 3D and vector 3D and determinant matrices, give these topics another 2 days, and then rest of the topics you can take up in another 2 days, whatever else is left, right? So uh, this is how you can manage your time. And like 2 days is very good for calculus. Something like, one day you can do differential calculus, one day you can do integral calculus, uh, vector 3D you can finish one day, then determinant and matrices another day, right? And here, what you need to do, like while you have been studying the whole year long, you have been solving NCRT book and whatever your school question papers also. uh, Now whenever you study a particular chapter, just recall in which question I got stuck last time, or which question was it that I lost marks, right? So uh, pay special attention to that, right? So if you are dividing your days topics wise, I think that could be a good time management. Now Harsha has another question, like what aspects to keep in mind while doing practice. While doing practice, as I said, when you are always when you see the when you are going through the last year board papers, now those are the questions you actually need to practice. You need to write down. Try to write it down as you would do in the examination hall, uh, when you are doing both those questions which have been asked in the board exams, right? So this thing you keep in mind. Okay, so we can move ahead now, right? Let's go ahead. Now, what are the important topics? Okay, important topics. I'll be now taking you through all the through chapter wise, and what are the topics there we have to deal with. Now, first topic that we come across is, you can see on your screens, relations and functions. Now, relations and functions, then this is different types of relations. Now, what are the types of relations? You need to study what are reflexive relations, what are symmetric relations, what are transitive, what are equivalence relations, right? And of course, you would have done them, and but all you need is to go through it again, and directly. In fact, if you're thorough with this, you directly go to that previous year board exams paper and see what questions have been asked, and do them right away. Then the next one is again quite important: binary operations, and especially this identity element in binary operations involved. So that is one area that you have to do. Then domain, codomain, and range. You could be getting one question on range or one question in domain, right? Understanding of codomain is important, because when you go into the next section of onto and into functions, you got to understand each and every concept of domain, codomain, range, right? And then next is your one and many one functions, onto and into functions. You could get a question on, basically a function can be given and you may be asked to prove whether it's onto or into. Then next one is composition of functions. Two functions would be given, you may be asked to find fog, guf for that. And then inverse of a function and how to find inverse. But even before that, how to find inverse, you need to check whether inverse would actually exist. You need to go into conditions for inverse to exist, right? So condition for inverse to exist obviously mean function needs to be bijective. It should be 1 1 and it should be onto. Right, and the next one is quite important: inverse trigonometric function. It would come later on in differentiation and integration also. So inverse trigonometric functions, you have to be very thorough with it, right? And as I said, for them, this NCRT is the best guide. Go through all the questions there. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic. From relation and functions, we move on to continuity and differentiability. Now, here you need to understand both the concepts. What does continuity mean? What does differentiability mean? You need to understand it geometrically, like in a graph. What would happen when a function is discontinuous? What would happen when a function is differentiable? And what would happen if a function is not differentiable? How would the graph of a function look at that particular point, right? And so on. So you need to go through these things. Uh, and then what types of question will be asked here? Let's see. Finding derivative of one function with respect to another when two functions are given. Now, children, remember, this is especially true. They may give you inverse trigonometric functions. One function is u, another is v, and then they may ask you to find the value of the derivative of u with respect to v at some particular value of x, right? So these questions you need to practice. They're always asked. Something, the four topics that I'm mentioning, something or the other, at least two things will be asked from here, right? And finding derivatives of implicit functions, right? Where you have like both the functions are there. For example, x cube plus y cube is equal to 3xy, those type of problems. Then differentiation of parametric functions. Now this is very important, and not only differentiation, you may be asked to differentiate twice. Double derivative may also come in this, so pay attention to this. And then problems based upon proving some result or equation, right? So you can be given a function, and then you may be asked to prove a property regarding its uh, some equation would be given, so you need to check whether that function satisfies that equation or not, or you need to derive that from the given property, right? So continuity and differentiability, I think we are cool with that. So let's move ahead. So next would be your Rawls theorem and Lagrange's mean value theorem. And question may not come on both the topics. It may still come, but yeah, one of them would certainly come: applicability and verification. You may be asked whether a particular theorem is applicable for a particular function on a given interval, and you may be asked to verify whether, yeah, it is it applicable, is it happening or not, right? So here again, you need to do the NCRT problems and do the previous year questions. Uh, so next would be, you can see on the screen, to determine rate of change of quantities. So here you need to like a spherical, spherical bubble, with time its size decreases and so on. So what would be the rate of change? Then you must be knowing the formula for area, volume of a sphere, cylinder, total surface area, and so on. And then there's one mention of marginal cost and marginal revenue also. Then I think here in this, if you just do the NCRT problems, that should put you in good stead, right? So let's move on to the next one. Now this one is a very broad heading: application of derivatives, right? So here, uh, first topic is to determine the change of quantities, or to determine the rate of change of quantities as a particular phenomena unfolds. Right, water is falling into a conical vessel, so at what rate the height would increase or height would decrease, and so on, at a particular time, or some for some particular value of x, and so on, right? And then the next topic would be to find the interval on which a given function is increasing or decreasing. Now generally it is known as monotonicity. So monotonic intervals we are supposed to find here, uh, right? So next one would be to find equations of tangent and normal at a point, to find approximate value of certain quantities, then what are points of maxima minima, and then to find maximum and minimum value of a function, right? So let's look at it in detail in the next slide. Now see, here we are having increasing and decreasing functions. Now you must understand what is definition of increasing function, what is definition of decreasing functions. NCRT book has a very nice presentation on this topic. Just go through it. It will just you'll everything will come back to your mind, even if you have not been studying maths for some time. And then monotonic intervals and methods to determine these increasing and decreasing intervals. Of course, you would be knowing f dash x greater than 0 increasing, f dash x strictly increasing, f dash x less than 0 strictly decreasing, and so on and so forth. Uh, so it's quite a small topic, but yeah, there's a one question would be there from this. Then you see tangent and normals or approximate value. Now here you need to understand the how equation of tangent comes by using the concept of derivative, how the equation of normal comes for by using the concept of derivatives. Especially here you need to have this learn to find equation of tangent for curves with parametric equations. Now again, go through NCRT and go through the previous year board papers. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Yes, maxima minima, definitely a question is going to be there from here. Now you must understand what is a critical point, what is a point of local maxima, what is point of local minima, and global maximum and global minimum. There may be some situation given, so you may have to find the maximum value of the quantity or the minimum value of the quantity. And then what are first and second derivative tests, and all word problems related to this. Now this is very very important. Not only just one, you may get two questions here from maxima minima alone. So be very careful with this. The very scoring part, and here especially children, you here generally one, suppose a cylinder is given, you are suppose given the area, then you will need to find the maximum volume and so on. Such problems are definitely asked. A cylinder inside a sphere, and so on and so forth. So once just go through them, And as again, I'll just tell you, whenever you are revising, always keep in mind which type of on which type of problems you lost marks in your pre-board exams or your unit test or wherever, and make sure that those are mastered, right? And so that in the actual exam you don't falter here. Uh, Akshita is asking, is paper pattern changed? No, Akshita, we don't have any information on this. There will be 29 questions and so on as they have been coming. How many sample papers I need to solve? How many sample papers? You see, sample papers, I would suggest that after once 2 or 3 days from now on, you take up 2 sample papers. Do the sample papers, within time conditions. Always within time conditions, time frame conditions. Take us, ensure that you are free for those 3 hours. Start with a clock and start doing it as you would be doing it in an exam. And you're not to study, questions of the sample papers are not to be studied casually. I mean, they have to be done as per the requirement of the uh, exam, right? And Vikram asks, is NCRT enough to get 100 marks? Yes, definitely. NCRT, you follow NCRT thoroughly, 100 marks is not impossible, right? Chalo, okay, let's move on to next one. Uh, Now indefinite integration. Now here the integral calculus starts. So indefinite integration would be the first topic. So here you revise all formulas, do all the NCRT problems, and of course go through the problems which have been coming in the previous year papers, and especially pay attention to that partial fractions, integration by partial fractions. One question on that particular topic is always there. And let's see what else we have. Uh, then definite integration. Now, whatever you study in definite integration is in totality used in definite integration with some additional concepts. Now, definite integration has limit of a sum. There's an exercise given in NCRT. Go through that. Do every question, right? Then Newton Leibniz formula, and then there are 6 to 7 properties of definite integration which you must master. Now, every time they definitely ask a question on this, and these are very important topics, not only for this but also for later on, JEE mains and advanced as well. So the if you prepare these topics thoroughly, so here it will be very nice. Next topic comes is that is application of integration. Integral. So the first topic that here we have is area under curves. Now in board exams, area under curves is not a difficult question. They don't ask difficult questions, but this, you have to be very careful here. Don't get overconfident, because here calculation mistakes can occur. So whenever you are doing a question on area under curves, do it very slowly, do it very properly with all the steps and all, and check and recheck as many times as you can. Uh, because this generally comes, the area under curves question generally comes under long answer question, so it has a big weightage. So please avoid calculation mistakes as far as possible, right? And next topic would be differential equations. Now, differential equations, study the what is the degree of differential equation, what is the order of differential equation, and then it has the topic has been categorized basically into 3 types of differential equations, namely variable separable, where you x and y get very easily separated, homogeneous form, and linear differential equation forms. So uh, be very thorough with all this. Uh, Here again, I would suggest, remember, while preparations, uh, you must have seen there would have been some difficult problems and all. Go through them, right? And next would be use of differential equations in solving geometrical and physical problems. Yeah, here, generally word problems will be told. A situation would be given. You have to create the differential equation yourself and then solve it. and some value would be given at some particular point of time or for some value of x. So you need to find the constant of integration as well. So here, so I think this part, this should complete the calculus part. Now coming to the algebra part, now here we see, you see determinants. Determinants is a very, very important topic. Always there a question comes, and first of all you have proving identities. Proving identities, this particular involves a determinant given on the left hand side, and on the right hand side there would be some algebraic expression to it, so you have to convert without actually expanding it, right? And then use of determinants in solving linear equations. So Kramer's rule you must study, that's very important. And generally one question will come on this. So either you solve those system of linear equations by using Kramer's rule or by the method of matrices, right? So let's move on. Next topic would be matrices. Now, okay. So here, what types of matrices we are? You have rectangular matrix, you have square matrices, then you have identity matrix, symmetric matrix, skew symmetric matrices, singular and what are non-singular matrices, right? So here children, this particular chapter question will be there in every section. It will be in the short answer question, very short answer, it will be in short answer, it will also be long answer. So this is quite an important topic here. Then adjoint of a matrix, how to find adjoint of a matrix, then finding inverse of a matrix and its use in solving linear equations. Now here again, do the word problems. You know, again some situation can be given to you. You have to create the equations yourself, then solve. Now in both the topics, children, please remember, don't make silly mistakes. Check and recheck your calculations here. These two topics, questions on solving linear equations, generally come under, you know, long answer type questions, where you three variables and three unknowns are given, and there are three equations and you have to create. So here please avoid you cannot afford to lose marks here. One, if you one mistake goes and you can never arrive at the answer, and then it is very difficult to go back and check also, okay, where did I make the mistake, right? So here, start the problem from the very nicely right from the beginning. Be very careful, be very particular, and do it neatly, so that at least you yourself understand, or you come to the conclusion, see here I made a mistake, so this must be corrected. Okay. How can we do now? Abhiram has this question: how can we do difficult integral which comes out of textbook? Now here, children, here, go through the previous year board exam papers, right? Or whatever alternative textbooks you have been studying. So there are ample number of problems there, right? But I think last year board exams questions would be perfect guide. And as far as I can understand, beyond that, nothing would be coming. Right. Now, Soumya Deep asks, should we start solving NCRT exemplar now onwards? Yes, definitely. If you are solving NCRT exemplar, so you that again puts you in good stead for JEE mains also. So exemplar is yeah, it's welcome. But students not into JEE mains as of now and who are focusing mainly on boards can, you know, ignore exemplar for the time being, right? Anshul Kumar asks, is blueprint available? Okay. Is blueprint available? Which type of blueprint, Anshul? Anshul, actually, your question is not clear. What do you want in blueprint? Okay, you can search online for that, and if you can be more specific, I can take up the question later on. Right. So let's see what next we have. Next, yes, again a very, very important chapter, vectors. Vectors you have been studying, children, since 11th class. First of all, you studied it in physics, triangle law of addition, parallelogram law of addition, angle between two vectors, perpendicular vectors, parallel vectors, and so on and so forth. Now this again comes back in mathematics. So study all the following concepts: what are the collinearity, condition for collinearity, condition for coplanarity, what is dot product, what is cross product, scalar triple product, and vector triple product, right? And here just practice very nicely from this. Again, you cannot afford to lose marks on vectors. The vectors and three-dimension geometry questions, they generally come directly from NCRT, and everybody can score here marks. You just can't afford to lose marks here, right? And again, it's very important for JEE mains as well as advanced. So preparing vectors nicely is important. Now let's take up 3D geometry. 3D geometry is a direct consequence of chapter of vectors. You understand vectors properly, 3D geometry automatically comes to you. You understand it by yourself. Now see, here you have to understand equation of various forms of straight lines and planes, angle between two lines and two planes, perpendicular distance formula, and method to find foot of perpendicular. Now remember, perpendicular distance formula, there's a direct formula for a distance between point and plane, but learn the method how to find distance of a point from a perpendicular distance of a point from a line, right? This you have to solve the problems yourself, and method to find foot of perpendiculars also. Now remember, one more question, type of question comes in here. Finding a distance of a point from a plane parallel to another plane or parallel to another line. So these type of questions also have been asked, right? So please go through the previous year board exam papers, and just look for these type of questions where distance between point and plane has been asked parallel to another plane or parallel to another line, right? And then what are condition for two lines to intersect, and shortest distance between two skew lines. Now shortest distance between two skew lines, a question is always asked. It's generally a 6 marks question, or at times even a 4 marks question. So and of course angle between two, it's been written here on the second point, is angle between two lines and two planes. Also children, learn the formula for angle between a line and a plane, right? And doing this much, I think you should be able to get full marks for 3D geometry. Now let's see what we have next. Next is a gift. What is that gift? The gift is in the form of a question of linear programming. Now here nothing is required except a neat and clean graph, and sketch the bounded regions, and check the corner points wherever the maximizing or minimize, whatever you have been asked to maximize or minimize, put those values, and you ultimately get to the answer very quickly. Now this is one of the very easiest way, and of course there are one or two problems on unbounded regions also. Just study how, if a region becomes unbounded, how to find maximum and minimum value there. That's all in linear programming. So as I said, it's 6 marks questions are for free. Matlab, you just have to, don't make calculation mistakes, give a neat and clean graph, right? And now let's take up probability. Probability, of course, conditional probability, then you have Bayes theorem, binomial distributions, and mixture of these three concepts mainly. Probability again is a very important topic, both for boards, for IIT JEE as well, right? So study it nicely, basic concepts get built up, so later on you would not be having any problem, right? And I think that should be about it. So I've discussed all important topics chapter by chapter, and as I said, you arrange your time. Every student should manage their time. Like as a well, it was my suggestion: keep 2 days for calculus, keep 2 days for vectors, 3D, and determinant matrices, and the rest 2 days for the other exams. And yes, and children, don't solve more than two sample papers. Focus more on content rather than this. Sample papers you need to solve, it's important, but then don't say that I'll solve a sample paper, I'll solve two sample papers every day. That somewhere or the other, na, then you will start lacking in your preparation. Some part of theory you would be missing, and so on. So well, all the best. Now we can take up any questions if you are having. uh, Sarah asks, what are important questions from application of derivatives? Important questions. See, I think all questions are important. You can't actually classify what are important questions, but uh, yeah, I even mentioned before in the talk that sphere, volume of a sphere, you know, wherever you have to maximize area or volume, those type of questions definitely get asked. And Anshul asked 6 marks question comes from which chapters? Now, Anshul, this is it can come from any chapter, but mainly I'll tell you probability, then Cramer's rule, matrices, right, and this linear programming is definitely 6 marks question is from there, and it could be from calculus also. Yeah, integration question, problem on integration of area under curves, or such questions do qualify to come in 6 mark situation. Ritik, how to do quick revision? How to, very nice question. How to do quick revision? Quick revision would just entail, uh, well, you have been studying for the last whole 1 year. Take out your notebooks, right, and just go through the questions that you have been doing in class. And as I said, in revision, you must focus on what are your weaknesses, like, so that you can remove them. These uh, these 6 days have been granted to us to do that only. So keep on revising. Quick revision means day before the exam. Quick revision is like just revise all the formulas. That's all. What else can you do, right? Okay. Any other questions? Uh, for calculus, anything extra from NCRT, or you mean other than NCRT, right? So Pratik, uh, questions on integration generally. I mean, you don't need to go beyond NCRT. If you need to go beyond NCRT, just take a look at the previous year board papers. So I think that should be sufficient. Because board exam has a certain level, they don't generally cross that. And Priyal asks, is NCRT enough for linear program? It's more than enough, let me tell you. uh, it's more than enough. At least for linear programming, you don't need to look elsewhere. Huh. Of course, you need to do every question one by one. You do every question, right? Now Harish asks, which famous concept for probability? Uh, which famous concept? Uh, Bayes theorem is one concept on on which question will definitely come. So yeah, famous. If you are saying, rather you should have said what is the important concept for probability. Yeah, Bayes theorem. Please do Bayes theorem very nicely. The only two or three type of problems are there, right? And like you have machine A, machine B, machine C producing some output or the other, and then every machine producing some percentage of defective items. Later on, a article is selected at random and found to be defective. Which machine made that article? So that way, these questions are always asked. So Bayes theorem, I think, is an important concept as far as probability is concerned. Okay, okay, children, all the best.
All right. Special thanks to Sir for sharing those study hacks and tips. I'm sure they'll help you all with your preparation. Uh, in case you need to watch this video again, you can just visit the same link once the live stream has ended.